Welcome to Conscious TV. I'm Renate McNay and my guest today is Shakti Caterina Maggi. And welcome.
Thank
Shakti.
you. Thank you for having me here.
Yes, and Shakti is from Italia, and it's very rare that we have somebody here from Italia. No, Italy, you say, or Italia. Italia, yes. So, and Shakti is currently writing a book, and we don't know yet when it's going to come out, but it should be very interesting because I think it's going to be how consciousness became human, and we are going to talk about that today as well. But first I'd like to know, where is the name Shakti coming from?
Well, it was given to me by my teacher, and it's strange because...
Who was your teacher,
He was called Avasa.
Avasa, he was English, right?
He was Welsh.
Oh, he was Welsh, yeah.
But yeah.
How did the Italian come to invent?
Well, he came in Milano for a meeting, and I met him there. And when he gave me this name, although previously I always thought there was, slightly pretentious for people to change their name. It made very much sense. It was something that hit me a lot, like a new vibration coming to my system. And for many years has been very important to integrate it. And then like later on, when I introduce myself to people, I use both my name, my civil name, Caterina, and my spiritual name, because I feel it's very important that there is a total connection. So right now for me is the same. The majority of my friends call me Shakti, but it's also totally fine, Caterina.
So Shakti is the mother?
Shakti is the energy of the void, is the vibration of emptiness becoming the form, is the power of creation, is the female, the female in itself. So it's the emptiness that vibrating, in that vibration manifests as everything, is one with the emptiness, but it's its active side.
So
the
that's
emptiness
is Shiva.
Yes.
I guess.
Yes.
Yes. So just a little bit of history, Shakti. You used to be a journalist in the financial industry, writing for Wall Street.
I was writing for an important American company.
Yeah. And you also were directing a publishing house and translating books?
I was taking care of the publication. This many years later.
Yes.
I took care of some books that came out about non-duality for a publishing company in Italy. Yes.
So by that time you were writing about financial subjects. Were you already consciously on a spiritual path?
No. What happened was that when Awakening happened in 2003, and by that I mean the recognition that I was not what I believed to be. I was not a person in the body, confined inside the body-mind.
So how did I know from your notes you were going to a Satsang?
Yes. Well, actually, it happened a bit before coming to Satsang. What happened was that at the beginning of 2003, and I was still a journalist at that time, like through various kind of situation of my life, I came to, instead than like trying to avoid a sense of suffering and separation, to meditate it, to include it in my experience, to say thanks to the divine for it. And one night I had a Kundalini experience, that I didn't know was called Kundalini at that time, and I didn't have any clue about spiritual awakening or anything like that. But basically I felt that I was the love that I was looking for. And all my body started vibrating, and I felt like I was dying. I was convinced I was going to die. It was coming like in wave of energy, like filling my system. And everything disappeared in there. And when I woke up in the morning and I was still alive, I was very surprised. But at that time, like I didn't have any information about this, but it was like I was watching me as a form from a bigger eye that was previously unknown. And it was like watching a living comedy or a comic, But this was not stable yet. And then 3 months later, I met my teacher in a satsang in Milano.
So was that kind of a universal witness?
Yeah, yes, but that phase, what it happened with that experience I'm talking about now was not the awakening, was an energetic experience that prepared, was like, was something that happened before. And then when I met my teacher, he was describing his experience in his awakening, and I said, that's what happened to me. That's what is happening to me. And 3 days later, awakening happened. And then I recognized that Caterina never actually existed, was just a figment of my own imagination, that I was this emptiness that created everything, the entire universe. And in this recognition, all the manifestation collapsed back in the emptiness and disappeared consciously. When the word appeared again, the sense of being a person was completely gone and never came back. And later on, I discovered this is quite rare, because usually the sense of separation comes and goes. Mm-hmm. In fact, often in my teaching, I share this with people to stabilize in this. So let's say my experience has been a bit odd, a bit different from others. And then 15 days after what I call a true awakening, so a steady recognition to be the emptiness out of which all the manifestation comes from. Like, I dropped my job, was not possible for me to carry on. Yes. So the experience with the publishing company came later on, when I was already starting to share, but they asked me to take care of some books, and I thought it was a nice service, so I did it for a while.
So I find it interesting, because in my understanding, everybody has a unique designed nervous system, and which only really allows for a gradual awakening. So how did your body cope with this sudden opening, and with the energy which must have been coming in, and how were you prepared for that?
You are absolutely right, but I think that I was a bit different, maybe, in the sense that I have been always on the verge of this since I was a small child. So I remember distinctly around the age of 8, 9 to recognize that thoughts that were passing through me and manifestation were connected. But at that time there was like almost a little fear about it, because I was resting on a level of, let's call it super consciousness, in which it seems like almost you are creating personally what is going on. So although I was not like trained into a spiritual tradition, since I was very small, I had this moment of various spiritual happenings, and various moments in which I was not present. It was just a manifestation. Maybe I was like watching a tree that was struck by the wind, and suddenly it was just the wind and the tree, and I was not there. Or a puppy barking, and then suddenly I was the barking. But I was not speaking about this to anybody. You know, intuitively I knew that nobody could understand it, and so I was not sharing with people about it. So it's true, it was sudden, but at the same time there has been a long preparation since I was very small. So what has been very interesting for me has been what happened afterwards, after awakening. In fact, this is something I speak a lot about with people.
Can I just make one other remark?
Yes,
that it seems that you either already came that way into this world, or it happened gradually, that your karma stream, if we believe in karma, came to an end while you were still in the body. Is this how we can see it? If you are all of the sudden, without identification and no interruption in the experience of who you are.
My understanding is that the existence of vasanas, of residues of the ego, can carry on also after awakening.
Yes.
So it's not that all the karmic debts of a form must be extincted before the recognition to be the emptiness that is watching and creating a manifestation can occur. So there is no contradiction. What I can say, you know, if you are blind color and you always see things in a certain way, it's hard for you to say, for me it's different, you know. So what I gathered as information after awakening is that probably I never had a very strong sense of separation since I was a kid. And so this passage of from the belief to be a person to the conscious recognition of what I am has not been so abrupt. I always felt the presence of God in my life. You know, God was not like something away from me. I felt like I was immersed in the grace of God. So,
but it was not because Italians are normally religious.
You know, if you, Catholic. Yeah, I mean, I grew up in a religious environment, and I was not obliged to go to the mass or to pray or anything. But for me, praying was very easy. I've been praying all my life. Just that the prayer became a thank you, an amen. That will be done.
You said I was reading that your prayer was, "May Thy will be done."
Yeah. I recognized at a certain point. I recognized that in staying with what life, with what the universe was giving me, I could learn something that otherwise I couldn't learn. So I recognized there was a wisdom in life that was way beyond the understanding of the mind. And in learning this, I learned to welcome things as they were, and to discover that even when they were tough and difficult and bitter, there was something, sublime there for me. So, as said, I thought like there was no concept about it. It was very natural for me. I could tell you about various spiritual experiences I had way before awakening, but I don't know they would make even sense, to speak about them, because they were just part of this. Any flower of the garden of God has its own way to blossom, and maybe mine was not like the average, but nevertheless we are all this emptiness. But you are right, in certain cases can be very tough. If there is a lot of resistance to feeling, I think faith and the feeling the presence of God helped me. But if you are like not knowing what is going on, you can get very scared, for instance, because this rising of Kundalini can happen to any person.
Incredibly traumatizing.
Can be traumatizing. I'm thinking, as you mentioned it now, to a woman called, if I remember well, Susan Segal, Collision with the Infinite.
Yes, I read.
She had a very, very dramatic experience until she met Jean Klein. So yes, I was lucky.
And why do you think? Can you say that again? Why do you think some people have such a difficult time and some have it easier?
I would say that if you feel that there is something that in that moment feels like an external force that is coming through your system, you can get scared. Actually, it's funny because it's kind of the opposite. That energy that is uprising is your true energy, because it's Kundalini is the Shakti moving through the system of the human system. So is your own true energy that is coming to free up all these knots of identification in the body. But if you are, let's say, afraid of this and you don't recognize that is a God-given experience, you can fight it and then can become a trouble. But once this process has been ignited, it cannot be stopped, really. It can remain stuck.
So does everybody has to have...
And I want to say, sorry, that also is not necessary for Kundalini rising to recognize where you are. Not all the people that
that's
are...
what I wanted to ask. Is that a necessity for awakening?
No. I thought I would say that generally, in my understanding, the people that really had an awakening experience, they do experience also a sort of energetic movement of the Kundalini of some sort.
Right.
Maybe it's very subtle and they don't put a lot of attention to it.
Yes.
What has been striking for me and interesting was this experience of the coming down of the Kundalini once has been arising.
And how long was the gap between that?
Oh, years. Yes.
So that's part of your teaching how consciousness becomes human.
Yes. I'm interested in that because Because a lot of people speak about how to reach God, but we are God. We are already this emptiness. We are already the divine, not as a person. It's not that the person is God. the person, the body, the body, mind, the manifestation exists in God.
So when you say emptiness, Shakti,
yes,
you say emptiness is the heart.
No, I say that the emptiness is aware of the manifestation, that is a vibration in itself. And when I say to people, go back to the heart, the heart is that bridge between the divine and the manifestation. The human is the bridge. The human form is incredible, is a bridge between emptiness and form. So when you rest in the heart, is emptiness consciously contemplating the manifestation. So the heart is, in my words, in my language, is the sublime door between emptiness and form. So when you rest in the heart, you are consciously contemplating the form. You're consciously meeting life from the emptiness. And everybody knows how to do it. I know that people think, so I don't know how to contact my heart. It's not true. It's very natural for human beings.
Well, tell me.
Because,
I mean,
yeah,
of course, we experience incredible heartful situations and love, but then, you know, our mind drags us to somewhere else.
But you see, when I say the heart, I'm not meaning emotions. Yeah? Like emotions, thoughts, everything happen in the heart.
Yes. So how does the true heart feel?
Empty, present, brimful, loving, compassionate, neutral, splendidly neutral.
But it's silent.
Totally silent.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's what is behind every human being. Is what is behind every form. Yeah.
Very moving.
It is. It moves me as well.
Yes.
Yes. So when we are kids, when we're very small, we move from the heart because we're still natural, spontaneous. And then the conditioning takes this radiance that comes from the heart and bends it on the sense of separation. So you start to feel contracted as if you exist inside a form and as if the world is outside of you. So you start to learn how to close because it's too painful to feel this contraction. But behind those contractions, still this beautiful emptiness exists and is you.
Yes, yeah. And so difficult to refine.
I think we are afraid to meet ourselves. That's why it looks difficult.
We are afraid?
We are afraid because meeting yourself with no defenses, without that armor of the ego, means to feel again that vulnerability that is actually the openness of your heart. So we protect a lot with ideas about spirituality also, or any kind of ideas of belief. Being a person is a belief, so that's the main one,
so
of course.
Let's take a situation, Shakti, which is painful.
Yeah.
I don't know, anything. You fall in love and the other person decides he doesn't want to.
Yeah.
So
it's challenging because your heart is open.
Yes.
You've been recognizing yourself in the other person on some level, so you feel oneness. But then, like, the object of love seems to be brought away, and then you have the challenge. Can I leave my heart open? Can I remain open? If I can, I will recognize that the love is not coming from the object, but the object is the projection of the love I am.
Yeah.
This has been what has been happening to me. Like when I had that experience I was telling you about, the Kundalini, like tingling all the cells of the body, and like the recognition that I am the love. I was looking in the world that no beloved what could be this, but the beloved was existing in the love that I am. I recognized this because I saw that although the beloved one was gone, love was still here. So I recognized that the love was here even if the beloved was not here.
Yeah.
So I said, oh my God, I am the love. I am that love. And then all that happened.
A profound recognition.
I don't know, it happened.
Yes, yes. So how how from this point do you look at a world which is in so much suffering and sad, really, what's happening? How do you keep your heart open and not, you know, I often experience, if I read something or hear something, I just have the feeling it's me in this moment. It's like I cannot separate myself.
Well, you have to remember that consciousness, through all its forms, is still learning. Through certain forms, consciousness is awake, and through certain forms is in the process of awakening, is drifting away from the sense of separation and coming to the recognition to be this presence. But through certain forms, consciousness is still very, you know, engaged and engrossed in the sense of separation, because it's afraid to meet its pure essence. And so when you live from an open heart, you see that the ignorance that is expressed through certain actions is there because there is just a lack of understanding. So there is compassion and detachment, and also the understanding that certain things have to be in that way, otherwise consciousness couldn't learn. So you start to see the perfection of the movement of life, not because like it's perfect because you don't want to touch the rawness of it or the violence, you know. Life is incredibly innocent, so life gives you everything: grief, loss, disease, you know, like you go up and down, because life doesn't know how it should be. That's its beauty, you know. The beauty of life is this.
Sure, if you are life, you don't reflect back.
Life is totally unpredictable, and in its movement is moving all its form to come to the recognition of what you are. And so in doing that, sometimes polarities of ignorance are coming to the surface of consciousness, and they represent themselves as conflicts, as words, as people, you know, being violent with one another and things like that. So if you start to see this from the big picture, you understand that sometimes the only way in which consciousness through a form can recognize itself is going through tough times. They're not bad in themselves.
Yeah. Yes.
Makes sense to you?
It makes sense.
Yeah.
I just was thinking about something I just read, that we are on the brink of becoming cyborgs.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So which is part humans, part machines, and which will alter our personalities and identification and so forth. How does waking up is then, and enlightenment then? Well, why does consciousness make it more and more difficult for itself?
I don't know about transhumanism. I think you were speaking about it so much, so I don't want to speak a lot about it, because it's not a subject that I know deeply. But what I know is that this machine, this dream machine, is already a wonderful, very complex machine that we know very little about. So we are consciousness using a vehicle, that is the body, mind, that can make consciousness having an experience. So consciousness can be aware of its own creation through this vehicle, and at the same time to be conscious of itself. So in that way, it sounds to be robotic, you know.
Yes.
Changing it, I don't know. It's a very complex machine, and we know very little about it still. About its ability and complexity. I feel that sometimes in our endeavor to meet ourselves as emptiness and to live and consciously this beautiful dream we are creating, the dream of life, we are trying to make actions like the one of creating robots that are mixing with humans, that are like the attempt to reach something that is control of a manifestation. But the true control doesn't come from manipulation. Only a person that is very scared tries to manipulate. True control comes from recognizing to be the creator of the dream.
Yeah.
From there, you see that from your own very being, everything is created. Then you have total control. But it's not a control in the action, it's a control in being.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that the people that are doing this kind of experiments are also doing it because they try to bring some goodness to humanity. I'm thinking about people that have handicaps or, you know, like,
sure.
so it can be like, you know, can be also inspired by love.
Sure.
But if it's inspired by control, it's because it's coming from fear.
Mm-hmm.
But we can also learn from fear,
Mm-hmm.
you know. We can learn that, I'm not speaking about biological fear that is, of course, very good for the body. Otherwise, you would throw yourself underneath a taxi or something like that, you know. So it's good that you have a biological fear, you know. But psychological fear is not necessary. It's coming from the idea to be separated.
Mm-hmm.
And we can learn from it.
Mm-hmm.
Fear is not an enemy. It's actually our best friend.
Yeah, tell me about that.
You can meet it.
Yeah.
You can meet it as an experience in you.
Mm-hmm.
And in meeting it, it will be the emptiness meeting the fear. And in meeting it and contemplating it, in meditating the fear from the emptiness, that's important to remember. In sitting in the emptiness of your being and being aware of the fear arising, you will be consciously transforming this energy. And you will discover at the end that was your own radiance contracted around the sense of me. So in meditating it, this contraction starts to get unraveled and to be radiant again. And then it's felt as joy.
Yeah.
Fear is joy contracted around the sense of a me.
You know, listening to you, it sounds also simple.
It is. It is simple.
You know, and also when you talk about consciousness and its consciousness recognizing itself, then the thought came, so what's behind consciousness? There is this name consciousness, but we don't really know what it is.
Yeah.
What's behind?
Well, behind
where
the word,
is this idea coming from? Consciousness wants to wake up to itself, and it creates this game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That must come prior to a consciousness.
Well, it depends what do you mean by consciousness. When I use this word, I'm aware is a word.
Mm-hmm.
But what is behind the word, it's not something that is describable with a word. And that thing that is undescribable is consciousness, is what I am.
Yes.
So I am what is aware of the word consciousness.
Okay.
But I'm not the word. What I am, what you are, has no name. And when you touch it consciously, when you become aware of you, you see that everything that has been existing because you wanted to meet yourself consciously. It's not something, it's not a story anymore that somebody told you. It's your own direct experience. So you are perfectly right. You know, it can be taken as a message that is like a nice story, you know. But when you see it, it's not a story at all.
No,
you see
it needs to be experienced.
Yes.
Yeah.
I am what I'm talking about. It's not something that is an idea for me.
Yes.
I learned how to say it in a way that hopefully is understandable for people or simple. But it's not something that I know. It's something I am. It's something that you are. We all are it.
So what is your experience now, Shakti?
In this moment,
Yes.
I am the presence of this moment.
Yeah.
I am the scratching of the knee on your leg. I am a smile. I am the warmth of this body. I am these words. I am the nice gentleman that is listening to us behind the screen. I'm this.
So, oneness.
It's,
No separation.
yes. I am emptiness appearing as everything. They're one.
Mm-hmm.
And this is constant for me since many years.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean I didn't meet, and I'm still meeting maybe some, some polarities of contraction, some vasanas that might still be present. But the processing of this is a never-ending meditation, and is the reason why we're here.
So, what you say is self-reflection disappeared.
What do you mean by self-reflection?
Well, we are constantly looking at ourselves and talking to ourselves, and I'm that, and I'm that, and I am that, and I'm feeling that, and I'm, this constantly it's like a U-turn. Adyashanti talks about consciousness is making a U-turn, and all the time is looking at itself.
It's interesting because I see it in the same way, but the subject is completely different. I would say that everything is self-reflection, but the self I'm speaking about is not a me.
That's right. So no, I understand that. I experienced that where
Yeah. So like when you say self-reflection, for me, like is the eye of everything is constantly reflecting itself in everything that exists.
Yes.
So there is only self-reflection everywhere. Yes. But it depends, what do you mean by self? It's good that you mention it, because sometimes in my language I use the word self, but for me it's always spelled with a capital S, because it's the only self that exists. So other teachers use this word self, meaning the image that we built up.
The ego, yeah.
The ego I don't know if this is too long, you tell me, but the ego is it's interesting, because in awakening, the ego is invested, yes, correct?
Yes.
Is invested with this stream of light and is completely transfigured. And so from the recognition of what you are, you become who you are. It's this process of individualization that the creation has. So it's not just about recognizing to be emptiness, but it's also about becoming you as a form, That's very interesting.
Yes, that's what I was just
okay.
launching into.
Okay.
Because I'm very interested in, because hardly anybody speaks about that as you. So that's the journey of consciousness becoming a human.
Yeah.
And that's why we are here for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we came to the point. Well, the point is, if you are emptiness, and you are everything, why taking so much disturb of taking a human form?
Let's clarify again. Emptiness is the knowingness of who I am.
Emptiness is your true nature. It has no quality. It's emptiness.
Yes. Okay.
And the recognition of you as an emptiness,
steady
recognition, not like swinging pendulum recognition, but a steady recognition, in my language, is what I call awakening. Okay. So it's not a satori, it's not a moment.
No.
It's a steady seeing this, being this. Then from this, a true spiritual journey can start. That is a journey that is not done by the apparent individual, is a journey done by the emptiness itself.
Consciousness, yeah.
And so consciousness starts to meet all these levels of itself appearing as a form. And in doing so, all these polarities, all these dualities that are what are arising in the manifestation are met. Good, bad, winner, loser, female, male, all these polarities. And it can meet them in itself, transform them, and manifest them again, clean from the filter of the sense of separation. So the journey of a conscious embodiment is a journey in which emptiness meets the manifestation consciously and transform this fear of being separated into the gold of joy, of the radiance of being.
It's an alchemical process.
It's an alchemical process. Yeah. And the big alchemist is the heart. It's like the big alchemist. And the lead of the fear is transforming the gold of joy. But to do that, something must be working as a catalyzer and be sacrificed. And you are the one that is going to be sacrificed. That's the best part. The image of you is the one that is going to be sacrificed.
Yes.
So this fire of the love for God, the seeking for truth that seekers feel, is the fire that is going to be putting in flame the forest of the ego, is written in some scriptures. It's a very beautiful image. And these ego image are going to be sacrificed. And in doing that, that is going to be the catalyzer for this transformation. So
I think the ego recognizes at one point it can never be true nature, and then it surrenders itself.
It's not the ego that surrenders. It looks like that. It's consciousness that is believing to be separated, that surrenders the idea to be separated.
Right.
Because it's just a concept that dies. But when it's dying, it feels like you are dying. That's why sometimes it's very challenging for people, because you feel, terrorized, you're panicking, your world is falling apart. All the images that you built up to protect yourself are falling apart, and you're scared. But then that fear is not against you. It's the only way in which you can meet you, in which you can meet you. So it's a journey of love as well. Sometimes we're open, sometimes we're closed. That's the beauty.
But you talked about it earlier as it's a process when, like, the energy or the light comes into the form.
Consciously, yeah. There is only light in the form, otherwise the form would not appear. So everything is already light. Even science says it now. Yeah. Everything is light.
Yeah.
And you can recognize the light that is creating everything, and even the light disappears in the beautiful darkness of your being.
So but the Kundalini is rising up?
Yes.
Bringing the awareness or the transcendence, and then that comes back.
And when this light is recognized and you disappear into that one light, then this light can be shining again, conscious, that's the difference, conscious of itself through the form. At that point you will meet all this contraction, all these knots of false identification that has been built up, and it will clear it. The beautiful thing is that when this happens, it doesn't happen for the person. It's a quantum healing. It's healing everybody that is connected to that. Is healing whoever has been coming before and had that conditioning, and the people will come after. So it's very beautiful. It's very impersonal. This process of embodiment is exquisitely impersonal. It's not the person that embodies, It's not done by the apparent individual. It's really emptiness, coming to know the form again at every level, in the clarity, in the opening of the heart, in the hara, that is the bridge with the form, genetically. And then this process goes on endlessly and includes not just your physical form, but people around you, your country, your planet, You become a conscious sacrifice, in a sense, and you know the human, you know the beauty. If you think a moment about it, it's a miracle. Something that has no quality whatsoever, doesn't know any time or space or anything, knows form. Wow. Having a body is the vertigo of the divine. Is incredible.
I just, as you're talking, this image comes into me, Jesus dying on the cross, and I never understood what the meaning is of he died for us. Now when you talk about it's not only you, it's everything what is connected.
Yes.
So I kind of wonder, is that the meaning?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah.
There is a beautiful representation of the Sacred Heart of Jesus that is now placed on this side, and it's in the center of the chest.
The middle, yes.
Because actually the spiritual heart, when the Kundalini descends down here on this level, it opens the right heart. Ramana Maharshi speaks about it, and then in the middle, and the center is this glorious white golden light, and it's the emptiness meeting the human. Is a very important center, this one, and this is the meaning of the sacrifice is the cross, the verticality of the emptiness, the verticality of eternity, meeting consciousness as time and space, as manifestation, at the center of the cross, there is the one who is truly human and truly divine and shines. It's beautiful, beautiful symbol.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the doorway.
It's the doorway.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
And it's functioning both ways, Renate. It's functioning from the manifestation to emptiness, but it's also functioning from emptiness to manifestation. If we learn this, we will learn the incredible. We are called to learn that, how to consciously emanate a new word. It's very important, in my opinion.
Yeah, you said earlier, people are waking up and are so hungry for that knowledge of the embodiment.
Yeah.
And you know, when we started Conscious TV, that was over 10 years ago, everybody was just talking about transcendence. Nobody here, nothing to do, transcendence. And all of a sudden a shift happened about a couple of years ago, and women started to come forward talking about embodiment and yeah. So do you think it's time? Do you think we can save ourselves?
I think I feel what I see, what I observe, you know, like 15 years ago, when firstly I recognized this, like saying that you were awakened was almost like awkward, you know. People say, oh really, you know, like, who do you think you are, you know?
Yes.
And then slowly, you know, it came out as to be like almost fashionable. Now everybody's awakened, you know, they have the little satori and they say they're awakened.
Yeah.
They write the book and blah, 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 and they're very eager to say to the world. But then, like, it's absolutely true, I'm joking of course, but it's absolutely true that it's something that is happening en masse and it's impersonal, yeah? Then, like, what's next? A lot of people say to me, you know, I like what, you know, this idea that we are one, but then how do I function in the world? How do I move in the world without a sense of being a separate entity?
Yes.
Will I be able to function? Will I be able to survive, to work? Who is going to take care of me if I'm not the one doing things?
Yeah.
That's questions that are made.
Yes.
And they're sensible questions. And the answer is, there was never a you doing things, also before you notice it. But it's about to embody this in your everyday life, to let this emptiness touch you on every level of your being. So it's about becoming vulnerable again, open, you know, to not to be afraid to touch those fragilities, those hidden corners. And the one that is going to help you in that is the mother, life. Mother is coming every moment to invite you to meet whatever has not been recognized. She is everything. The mother, divine mother, is everything. She is this sati we're sitting, she's the air we're breathing. We exist in her because she's the divine manifestation. So the life is going to invite you to meet the places where you are not including consciously something in you as you.
Right.
And that's the process of embodiment.
Yes. Yes.
So it's already happening. We don't have to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
we can enjoy the show.
Can we do anything? Just watching.
we are simultaneously the one watching and the one living it. That's the
right.
fun.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it wouldn't be fun, isn't it? If you just watch it, it's the cool thing is that you're part of it. You are it as well.
Do you feel yourself in the body now?
I am, but not in the same way I was to feel it before. Yeah. I am in the body, but as emptiness consciously meeting the body.
Yes.
So
yes.
It's been when the energy went from the heart down to the hara.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know about it, so it was quite a surprise when it happened. I tried to find some reference about it of somebody because my teacher has been already dead when it happened.
Yeah.
And so I didn't know a person that could speak about it. So I tried to fetch feedbacks, but it was like after 13 years of being this emptiness, coming back in the body, but as a self, as the true self coming in the body, crossing the density of matter, meeting the density of matter as me. It's still happening. It's interesting.
It's interesting.
Very.
Where do you go next?
I
You
don't
seem
know.
to be already such a complete human being. And my teacher said once, I remember, there are only a handful people on this planet who are fully awake.
Mm.
And
it's
it
probably
sounds
true.
like you are fully awake.
I don't know. I don't know. How can I know the difference? I know only what I'm experiencing.
Yeah.
Yeah, isn't it?
Yeah. So are you progressing further into something?
Yeah, continuously. There are like continuous new discoveries. I think that our spiritual journey is endless.
It is endless.
So there is like nothing is ever. I would never say I'm done. I finished.
Yeah.
Homework done.
Yeah. Yeah.
What I feel is that maybe, but this, maybe I shouldn't even speak about it because this is just an intuition that I'm sharing with you.
Yes.
Maybe what happens is that as the process of integration of awakening goes on, you meet so much the cells of the body that the body is transformed. Maybe.
Into what?
I don't know. Because it seems that the body is obeying to laws, but what happens when this process goes so deep down into matter? Yeah. I'm thinking about like saints, that
rainbow bodies.
I don't know, there are many colors. Yeah, I don't know, there are so many, sorry, I didn't want to say colors, you say rainbows. So many names which can be said, light body, I don't know. But I'm thinking about, for instance, certain saints in all traditions, like in the East and the West, that like are in like a constant samadhi, like uncorrupted bodies.
Yeah.
I have no idea. Yeah. When it happens, I tell you.
Great, and we make another interview.
I don't know. I'm very happy with what is happening right now. I don't need anything different. I don't know. I see that things are evolving all the time. Yes, for sure. But I don't want to make this experience more special than what it is. It's already very special. To me, so it's already very beautiful. But definitely, my feeling, as I say before, is that we know very little of the body, and I have the intuition that we are capable of great things that we haven't yet explored.
So how do you transmit this profundity of teaching or experience? How do you transmit that to your students? How do you help them to realize?
I see myself in them.
You see yourself in them.
Firstly. And above everything, I see I am them. So in that I meditate them in my heart. And also words are shared, I make them sing and dance and have some perceptive experience.
So
but the main point, I think, is that I see myself in them, and then they might see that I am them.
Right. So that's a direct transmission.
Also I speak with people, like you now, but is my message in the words? Is my message in what I make people do, as exercises or things? No, I wouldn't say so.
I heard they are really fun.
The
workshops.
They are. People have fun. I don't understand why spirituality should be serious. I'm not a very serious person.
It sounded almost shamanic in a certain way, very experiential.
Well, it is. Life is experiential, isn't it?
But so. And you know what I like? That you say there is no spiritual life. There is just life.
Or we could say that your everyday life is your spiritual life. It's not that there isn't spiritual life. Everything is spiritual. It's the other way around. Everything is spiritual. We are the divine having a human experience, so everything is spiritual. It's not seen as spiritual sometimes because we are dividing things between spiritual and material.
I heard you are a fan of artists and you almost became one yourself. I was just reading something. I don't know where. I might have even read that on your website. And it says, the more injustice and suffering in a culture, the more need there is for truly creative artists.
Did I say that?
From? I don't know where I read.
I'm not sure.
When I when I did some research, this came up.
I'm not sure I said it, but I agree.
Okay. Yeah. So tell me your thoughts. But I find it really interesting, and how can we tap into our creativity?
Oh, that's very important.
Yeah.
Well, when you are creative, when you're not doing things with an end result in mind, you're very open to let the life force to be expressed through you. So that would be meditation. If you watch a kid making a sandcastle on the shoreline of the ocean or the sea, he's not doing it because he has to stay there forever. It's not because then he owns a sandcastle. He knows that the sea is going to eat the castle by the end of the day. So he's doing it just out of the joy of doing it.
Yeah.
And we are in the country of Oscar Wilde. He said many wonderful things. I really like him. And he said, all art is absolutely useless. And that's the beauty of it. So it's useless for the mind, but for the ego-based mind, but it's actually expression of the exquisite quality of the human to create out of its being. And when the joy of life passes through the human, any act you do is creative. Even if you do shopping, or decorating your house or raising a kid, you don't have to be a great painter or sculptor or whatever to be creative. Being creative is letting the joy of life pass through you. So life needs this planet needs creative people.
I know, but
needs joy.
Ian has to do with a lot of artists.
Yeah.
Being in the music business, and with a lot of them, the creativity comes of a real tension in them.
Yeah.
A traumatic tension. And not out of joy.
Yeah, but behind the abrupting, the breaking through of that pain is the life, is the force of life.
Yeah.
So it's true that can pass through a breakthrough, breaking through the conditioning of the trauma, but the energy behind is authenticity, the authenticity of pain, the profundity of sadness. That's life force passing through and expressing as humanness.
But would you say this is still sacred art?
Everything is sacred ultimately. When I would say this, that when art is made, even if just in that moment, even if afterwards the artist is coming back to feel separated, that is often the case.
Yeah.
But if in that moment the artist is empty of himself and full of the force of life, then he will do a masterpiece.
Yeah.
And a masterpiece is going to be recognized by everybody, even people that are not critics, even people that don't know anything.
Yes.
So a true piece of art is recognizable by the man on the street.
Yes.
Because the true art speaks about your true being. Is made in a space of emptiness.
Yeah, we forget ourselves.
And in that moment, when you watch that art, you disappear in the beauty. And the beauty is the recognition of the balance between emptiness and form. So if in that moment the artist is sacrificing himself or herself, is able to let the light of God to shine through. And we call that beautiful. It doesn't matter if it's going through a process of emotional trauma or distress.
I understand that now. I saw many years ago a documentary about, I know you are born in Florence, and I was visiting the Uffizien, how do you call it?
Uffizi Gallery.
Uffizi Gallery with full of great masters. And then I saw this documentary, and they were talking about this phenomenon which happens in this gallery, where not to everybody, but quite a few people, they start getting lost.
Stendhal syndrome.
And they're walking around, don't know who they are and where they are, and they sit finally down, and then they're collected and brought to the mental hospital till they get sober again.
That's extreme. I met one of them. I met one person years ago that happened when he was in front of Botticelli painting La Primavera, the springtime. And he was, the room in which this painting is very wide, and there is actually, if I remember well, a little painting of Leonardo on one side, but there is this big Botticelli painting. One side there is the birth of Venus, Aphrodite, and on the other one there is the springtime of Botticelli. And you are bombarded with beauty.
Yeah.
And if you're very sensitive, but you're not very steady in the emptiness, you get maybe swept away. But it's extreme. I mean, like certain people that are extremely sensitive to beauty can be, you know, like ravished by the beauty of life. It's a nice way to die, isn't it?
Yes.
So,
okay, Shakti, we came to an end.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's been fun.
It was very nice talking to you, and I'm looking forward for your next step.
Yeah, let's see what happens. I tell you.
Let's see what happens.
I nowadays, what I'm interested in this thing of how you become you, how you let the individuality to blossom and to...
How to be yourself.
Yes, that's so important, you know. And I think this is something that is very important for people that also are not interested in spirituality consciously.
Sure, yeah.
Because everybody wants to be themselves.
Of course.
But behind that there is spirituality.
Yes.
So.
Great.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Shakti, and thank you for watching Conscious TV, and I see you again soon. Bye-bye.